Hello, Sad Nation, and welcome to another episode of our Agents of Change series, presented by State Farm and SAD. We're all excited that summer is finally here, but we know this season is one of the deadliest for teen drivers. As young people take to the roadways, we want to give parents the tips and the knowledge they need to keep their families safe. We're thrilled to have an all-star panel with us today. Please join me in welcoming our Agents of Change. From Maryland, welcome Adam Herndon. Susan Rouser is coming to us from Michigan. Mark Anderson is here from New York. Jason Rinker from Pennsylvania. From Texas, welcome Christina Palomo. And last but not least, welcome Julie Whitaker from Virginia. Welcome, everyone. In this episode, we're talking about coaching your teen to establish a lifetime of roadway safety. Much of this starts by acquiring the skills necessary to be a safe driver through a process we call Graduated Driver's Licensing, or GDL. Almost every state has it, but parents, do you know what this means to you and your new driver? Adam, let's start with you. Tell us more about GDL.
No doubt. So Graduated Driving Licensing, also known as GDL, is a series of responsibilities that are gradually given to young drivers. It's not done overnight. It slowly exposes them to new risks and pressures as they get behind the wheel. They started to be adopted in the early 90s. I know that may sound like a long time ago to some of you. That's back when I was in high school, so please don't laugh too hard. But now they're in place in all 50 states and territories and are responsible for saving thousands of teen lives.
That's right, Adam. One of the first examples of GDL is nighttime driving. 2/3 of teen crashes occur after dark. There's many unknowns like animals on the road, fog, or new twists and turns. I have personal experience. When I was 17, my friends and I were at a party. I borrowed one of my friend's vehicles to go pick up another friend. I wasn't very familiar with her vehicle or the road. It was really foggy. I came to a stop sign too late, slammed on the brakes, and there was a T in the road, or the road teed, and I rolled her vehicle. Luckily, I was wearing a seatbelt, so I wasn't injured, but it was not fun having to tell my friend and her parents that I had totaled her vehicle. Most states do have nighttime restrictions that limit the hours in which a teen can drive. I know in Michigan that restriction is from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So just make sure you and your teen know what these restrictions are.
I agree, Susan. In my agency, we had a young driver that was newly licensed, and in New York, the license is only good until 9 o'clock when it's restricted. Her good friend was at a party, and what happened was she didn't feel safe to come home. So our customer's daughter went out to after hours to pick up her friend, and being a good neighbor really is what it was. And unfortunately, in the driveway, as she's turning around in their big Escalade, she bumped another car. And then the cops were called and a lot of things, and it all could have been avoided, if really the parents and the teens communicated about the law, not just for knowing it, but understanding the risk. There's after that, her parents put a zero tolerance, like they left the house. If they were not at home, they had the keys in their pocket. And these are two good girls, really. So, really, just the best way is a zero tolerance and no passengers, for the first 6 months or so.
Couldn't agree with you more, Mark. I'm going to talk to you about limiting distractions. Was a critical part of the GDL. Most states have bans on using cell phones or any electronic devices during the licensing period. It is important for parents to establish this behavior early on so teens separate the act of driving and device usage. For free, you can add on your own experience to, as far as what we do here in the office with our own experiences. We look at the situation of explaining to teens not to have their phone with them at all in the car, as far as being on. It can be on vibrate, things like that, but they need to pull over to use the phone at that point because it is a main distraction.
Good points, Jason. The whole idea of graduated driver's licensing is to create a space for parents and guardians to practice the art and science of driving with their teens. Most states have a number of hours that a teen must drive during the permit phase to obtain that provisional license. So parents, during this time, take your teen to drive at night, get them out in winter, rainy driving conditions, get them on the highway, get them in town in traffic, any of the conditions that they might face as a solo driver. Again, graduated driver's licensing creates an opportunity to coach your teen in some of the most dangerous situations, but they will gain the skills they need driving. So again, use that time wisely with your teens.
GDL laws slowly introduce additional responsibilities for teens as they age and gain more experience behind the wheel. The key is for the parents to continue to be involved. Don't stop coaching. There's a temptation to simply hand your teen driver the keys once they receive the full license. What if you continue to have training sessions with your teen? Maybe have them drive you to the grocery store, or when the family's heading out on vacation, make them drive you to their school and drop them off. Stay involved. I actually had a customer that called one day wanting to take her son's driver's license away. He had a small speeding ticket and a small fender bender. And she was blaming his driving on his education on behind the wheel at school. So I was encouraging her when telling her that she and her husband needed to stay involved. Don't take his driver's license away, but maybe don't let him drive alone, that he always needs to drive with you for the next 6 months until he gains some more experience. And funny enough, they did that. And years later, I ran into him and he was so thankful that he was able to keep his driver's license and really thanked me for that.
Absolutely. These are all excellent points that parents may not know when they sign for that license and give their teens that set of keys. Teens also have a role to play in understanding the rules of GDL themselves. And we have a few thousand teens here watching today. What are some concrete steps they can take to get to know GDL?
I want to take this opportunity to remind all you teen drivers to continue to practice. Practice? Yes, I'm talking about practice. This is not a game. You've got to practice. This is the best way to be safe behind the wheel. This means you have to continue to have mom, your dad, a caring family member give you feedback on how you drive. This means taking that feedback and always driving like someone's life depends on how you're driving. Because guess what? It does. We are not cats. We don't have 9 lives. I remember when I first started driving, I wanted to be cool and roll the window down and have my arm hanging out and listen to music playing. And I remember I was starting to do that. My mom was saying, hey, focus on the road, focus on the road. And I said, I got this, Mom, I got this. And I saw a big rig and I just froze and the car just slowly started going into the big rig. And my mom had to go and grab the wheel and kind of bring me back into reality. And I'm saying this to say the moral of the story is, don't get comfortable. Understand you're driving your car to get you from point A to point B, and everyone who gets behind the wheels, whether it's you or the people you're driving next to, would like to make it home safe at night. So be responsible, don't get comfortable, and act like your life depends on it.
That's absolutely right, Adam. Every trip, every time as a driver, you have responsibility to keep your passengers safe. GDL is designed to help develop the skills you need to fulfill that responsibility. Remember that these laws weren't put in place to limit fun, but to keep your teen and other drivers on the road safe. Understanding the science behind GDL provides a window into the best practices that exist to keep young people safe. Start those easy, good habits now.
Right, Susan. You know, as we've discussed, most states, graduated driving laws have zero tolerance for electronic devices. Really, the safest place is to put the cell phone in the glove box or in the trunk even. You know, in the event of an emergency, you can pull over and get it out. Or a simple step is really, if you have a passenger with you, let them respond to text messages or change your playlist. One thing that shocks me a lot is the people that are eating and drinking in their car and reaching for things. They're so distracting. In my life, when I was first starting out, I'm riding home on a country road with my sister in the car in the front seat, and it was cool out. She told me to turn on the defrost. Well, it's kind of going around the corner and look down to turn on the defrost, and the car slid right into the ditch. Nobody got hurt. I was going really slow. But one thing she could have done is really turn on the defrost for me until I got used to where all the buttons were in the car.
Those are great tips, Mark. I'm going to talk about teens driving at night. So we want to remind teens that nighttime driving is one of the most dangerous times to drive, and often crashes increases at night. Ensure them that nighttime driving restrictions in their state so they understand the laws that are in place to keep them safe. It is also not cool to have a parent with you, adult, to help you pick you up if you need to at night. Just remind them that it's a great tip for a parent if the children are going to be working late, or they're going to a game or a concert, or they're going to be running late, so that they don't try to get home before their boundaries exist. It's a good time for that parent maybe to go pick up the student at that point versus a student trying to get home.
Great point, Jason. Another very important thing is to limit your passengers, teens. There's nothing wrong with telling a friend that you won't drive them somewhere, that you can't give them a ride, because you understand just how dangerous a passenger can be. It's happened to me before. I have people in the car with me. They talk to me. I tend to want to look to the side. I'm not paying attention fully to the road. So if you do have passengers, set rules before you jump in the car. Make sure that everyone's going to behave as necessary. And again, if you're on the road and things start getting a little out of control, don't be afraid to stop the car.
And finally, I want to remind the students they have the responsibility to know the laws too. Even if their parents are not exactly sure what the rules are, they are responsible for knowing what limitations they have during their driving phase. Know what the curfew is as far as driving is concerned. Know how many passengers you can have in the car. If they have questions, they can reach out to their local DMV, BMV, or any driving school, or the Governor's Highway Safety Association, or GHSA. There's also a website at ghsa.org for more information. So please stay safe.
As always, panelists, you've given us a lot to think about today. As we wrap up, I'd be curious, what's one piece of advice that you would give to teen drivers as they face the summer months?
I know they say a dog is a man's best friend, but I wouldn't recommend having a dog or a cat or any type of animal in the car with you while you learn to drive, because a dog howling in the background or scratching on the vinyl could be a little bit distracting. So keep the pets at home, focus on the road.
My tip would be to take advantage of all the new mobile apps and tools out there. At State Farm, we have a Drive Safe and Save app that was created to help to make all drivers more mindful. It scores you on your trips and allows you to work on behaviors that will make you a better and safer driver. So that's my advice, and I encourage all of my new teen drivers in my office to sign up for these apps.
That's great advice, Susan. What I would say is don't let your child or don't ride with a driver with less than 6 months of experience. Most crashes happen as a result of rookie mistakes. Really, it takes experience, and that first 6 months is statistically the most dangerous time. So this really includes not driving around your family. Because sometimes they can be more of a distraction than friends.
Great point, Mark. What I suggest to a lot of teen drivers in the office here is that if in fact you would be with somebody that would be in the car that would be maybe out of control, would be doing things to the driver which could cause the driver to have an accident, would be immediately to ask their parent to come and pick them up and take them home so that you're not putting you at risk by putting them in the back of the car.
True. Well, I've heard lots of great tips today myself, but one that I noticed hasn't been mentioned is sleepy or tired driving. From personal experience, I lost an aunt in an accident. A gentleman had worked a double shift, was exhausted, fell asleep at the wheel, came across that line and hit them head on. So don't drive if you're tired or if you're sleepy. It could cause an accident.
Okay. We're also excited to get our driver's license when we're a teen and have some independence. I was actually one of those kids. I couldn't wait for the day I turned 16. But please remember that motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death for teens. And 55% of teens killed in car crashes were not wearing seatbelts. And distracted driving is the major cause of crashes. So my advice to you is to please obey the laws, avoid distracted driving, and always wear your seatbelt. Stay safe.
Agents, these are great tips all around. I again want to thank our esteemed panel from State Farm and, of course, you, Sad Nation, our followers, for helping us share the rules of the road as we celebrate what we hope to be the safest summer ever. That's all the time we have for now. Be safe, every trip, every time.